If you're an XRP holder, you might not be aware of this tool. It's called the XRP Rich List. It's something I like to look at from time to time, usually once or twice a week, just to see how the overall XRP market is doing. This is a really useful tool where you can see where you yourself measure up against all the other XRP holders. But by and large, it's even more useful for finding out what are the general trends, how are things moving in relation to the total XRP market. I've pinned the link in the comments below, so you'll be able to get to this site from there. Beyond that, as a legal disclaimer, all of this is for educational purposes only. I am not a licensed financial advisor, so take all of this with a grain of salt and do your own research before making any purchases. With that, let's begin. So here we are, we're at the home screen. It's richlist.info. There's going to be a hyphen in between rich and list. Again, the link to this will be in the comments below. That'll be pinned. Right off the bat, there's a few nice things that we can see. On the left, you're able to add in your wallet address, and on the right, we can see how many wallets are in existence. Now, if you're new to XRP or you're not entirely familiar with how the framework works, when you buy and hold XRP, it has to go into a wallet. And once a wallet has been created, it has to usually hold at least a minimum balance of 1 token to stay active. Over time, as XRP's price increases, we're probably going to see the minimum balance requirement for wallets go down. Currently, it's about 1 XRP. Sometimes you can get away with a fractional token depending on what wallet you're using. The main point I'm getting here is that right here on the right side of this screen, you're going to see these wallet counts just continuously go up. Unlike any other chart we've seen, you're never going to see these go down because there has to be a minimum balance for a wallet to stay open. It's very cumbersome to close a wallet, and it's just really uncommon to do so. A lot of times when someone is done with the wallet, they'll clean out as much XRP as they can, and they just leave the wallet as it is. So there's going to be a lot of XRP wallets out there with fractional amount of tokens, especially over time as the price increases. Why is this important? Well, if you're looking at this for the first time, you might think that there's about 7.5 million people out there that hold XRP. That's actually not true at all. I'll give you guys some quick examples. If you use Coinbase, Kraken, or Uphold, you have at minimum 1 XRP wallet. Once you move on to holding those tokens for yourself, I recommend a cold wallet. Some people use hot wallets, but in general, when you use a wallet, that's going to be a separate address from whatever you're using on the exchange. So anyone who has a wallet by default has a minimum of 2 XRP addresses. They're accounting for 2 out of this total figure of 7.5 million. Beyond that, if you're using any sort of delegation protocols, if you're on the Flare network, if you're on Doppler, or any of these other delegation protocols that are out there for XRP, that's going to register as another wallet. And then if you're using a hot wallet to move these back and forth from each other, that right there is another wallet. And on top of that, if you're using the Gemini credit card, which I personally use myself, that on top of that is another wallet. So it's really easy to see how someone could actually end up having 4 to 5 or 6 XRP wallets while they'll keep most of their balance in the cold wallet. These little residual wallets are going to be holding maybe 5, 10, 20 tokens of XRP, especially the Gemini credit card. So you really want to look at this number and think it's not actually 7.5 million. It's probably closer to maybe 1 or 2 million people out there in the entire world that hold XRP. The important thing to realize here is XRP is different than stocks, and that it's not an American stock. It's a protocol. The world is using this, not just the United States. So you have wallet holders in Asia, South America, Europe, United States. When you think that the world has roughly 8 billion, maybe even closer to 9 billion people at this point, that is a fractional part of the population that owns any XRP whatsoever. So if you're on the fence about getting into XRP or you only have a small amount, I really want you to realize that you're still very early in this. And I know that daily price fluctuation can be a lot for people if they're not used to the volatility of the crypto markets. But if you just hold on to what you have it's eventually going to exponentially increase as more people around the world start buying into these, especially with the ETFs going live. Now, that covers off the wallets. I want to show you guys the current statistics tab because this is where all the magic happens. So over here on the left, we're going to see numbers of accounts in the sum balance range. And then below that, we're going to see the percentage of XRP holders that have certain benchmarks of XRP. In the middle, there's these pie graphs. It's basically just showing what's already on the left. And then we have that historic wallet count here on the right screen. So this is the exact same graphic as we saw on the home screen. By the way, if you missed it, you can go to the wallet address or amount and put in your own personal number. And then you go to the current statistics page to see how you rank up. This is a lot of fun to do just to kind of keep track of where you are. But I want you guys to really think about the larger implications of all of these statistics. As time goes on, the rankings are going to shrink dramatically. And as long as you're a long holder, if you're not making any sales, you are going to slowly creep up this list, even if you at some point discontinue dollar cost averaging. Holding any balance sum at all will put you higher up on this ranking list. Now, let's say you've only been dollar cost averaging into XRP, let's just say for a year. Maybe you've been in it since 2024, and you've got yourself 2,000 XRP. If you don't have your wallet handy, or if you don't feel comfortable adding your wallet to this search bar, you can just type in the amount that you have and hit submit. After a few seconds, it'll generate your rankings where you'll be able to see how you match up against the overall XRP community. So you'll see 2,000 XRP would put you at roughly 800,000 in rank. That might sound really steep, but that still puts you in the top 11% in the world. Now, 2,000 XRP at the time of making this video is not that hard to accomplish. As of today, XRP is trading around $2 to $2.25, fluctuating in that range. So you're really just looking at upfront costs of about $4,500 to put you in the top 11% for XRP as a holder. Now, this is going to get drastically smaller, especially in the near future, because a lot of the ETFs that we've all been waiting for have started going live this month. The Canary and Bitwise ETFs are already live. Franklin Templeton is going live this week, and I expect that a lot of the inflows is going to make some of these numbers move quite dramatically. Which brings me to the next point. XRP, for the most part, is held by less than 1,000 wallets. And I want to kind of cover off these top tiers. There's 6 wallets that hold 1 billion or more XRP. There's 20 wallets that hold between 500 million and 1 billion. And then there's about another 60 that hold 100 million to 500 million. When you add that up, you're looking at roughly the top 80 to 85 wallets are holding 30 billion XRP. Now, we also can figure on the side over here on the right, we have XRP not in escrow. So there's actually only 65 billion XRP in circulation as of right now, November 24th of 2025. What does that mean? Well, XRP has the other 35 billion tokens in what we call escrow, which means every month a slow amount is being released into the market. This allows Ripple to have some control over the current price, which some people don't like, but it's actually healthy for the token because the end goal for XRP is for it to be institutionally adopted. As much as this is generational wealth generating money for people like ourselves, it's really meant for the institutions. It's really meant to be used at the institutional level. So most of the utility comes from its cross-border remittance, which doesn't really affect you and I that much, but it is actually something that we'll be using in the background. It's always going to be a back-end currency. You're never going to go to the grocery store and buy with XRP, but nations will trade with it, institutions will trade with it, and large investment capital firms will also trade with it. This is hugely important. Of the 65 billion, 30 billion of it is locked up by less than 100 wallets. Now, I want to say wallets and not people, because these are balances far greater than what individuals like you and I are capable of holding. In some cases, these wallets are already holding 2 or 3 billion US dollars worth of XRP. Who are these wallets? Well, it's going to be the high-level institutions, and it's also going to be the exchanges. Exchanges like Kraken, Uphold, Coinbase. And I don't believe those specific ones are actually in the top 6. I think they're actually more around the top 20 or in the top 60. But as XRP becomes more scarce, we're going to see these numbers actually drop off a little bit, and they're going to end up in this pool here of 20 million to 100 million XRP. Why does this matter? XRP has a finite ceiling. There can only ever be 100 billion of them. And because they're only being slowly released through escrow, as these ETFs go live, they're going to have to buy up a lot of XRP, and that's going to have to come from somewhere. First things first, they're going to target the exchanges, which could be a good or a bad thing for you and I, depending on when it was that you got involved in XRP. If you're involved right now, this is a tremendously good thing because it means there will be a supply crunch on XRP coming very soon. And when XRP has that supply crunch, the price has no choice but to shoot upwards. So right now we're looking at around a $2. Oh, in fact, right here it says the live price, $2.21. This won't last for too much longer. I wholeheartedly believe that. If we see this supply crunch, I don't like to get necessarily into price predictions. All I can say is that I believe it will multiply by itself. That could end up being $6, $8, $10. I don't want to say that I know for certain where that will be. The best thing that you can do for yourself, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, so this is an education channel only. I'm not a licensed professional. Do your own research. If you load up on XRP before the price accumulation happens, that's going to be the best position that you can be, and then you want to hold those tokens for as long as you can. I'm not saying don't take any profits, but I really don't think you should be taking profits unless there's something specific that money is going towards, whether it's making like a home upgrade. You know, maybe you've got some credit card debt that's been accumulating. You want to pay off some of your high interest balances. That makes sense. But just to sell because it's up, it's not a practice that I'm in favor of, especially if that money is just going to be holding cash in a stable coin or actual fiat currency in your bank account. That's not something I would recommend. I think you're much better off holding it, especially because there's going to be a lot of delegation protocols that you can earn passive yield with your XRP in the near future. Some already exist like Flare Networks and Doppler, but they're still on the new side and their yield isn't that high. But things are going to get better in that regard as time goes on. So looking at these lists, I check this a couple of times a week, and I can tell you with certainty, these numbers change little by little every day, but it does add up. Less than a month ago, if you wanted to be a top 1% holder, you had to have more than 50,000 XRP. Now that's all the way down to 49,500. So it's a 500 token drop in just 1 month. Now, unfortunately, this website doesn't really keep historical data that well. So something I'll try to do going forward is take screenshots of this, and then maybe after a year, we can kind of really analyze how much things have changed. This site itself not really able to do that. So there are some limitations to this, but it's an idea. I'll definitely start tracking that, and we'll come back here Thanksgiving of 2026 and see how it all holds up. Now, I know for most people watching this video, getting into that top 1%, probably not feasible unless you're already there. But if you think about what it takes to be a top 10% holder, 2,300 XRP right now is not that difficult. Yeah, it might be a lot for a lump sum, but if you're dollar cost averaging, you know, you're putting paycheck money in, maybe you're doing some stretch assignments like driving DoorDash or Uber, which I think is a really great way, by the way, to pick up some extra tokens so that you're still using your income to pay your bills, pay your mortgage. But you have a little stretch assignment on the side that you can use to generate a little extra income that goes directly into the market. Something I'm highly in favor of, and it's something to think about if you feel like you're a little stretched. We all make different amounts, and there's no judgment here. But the more you make, the more you'll be able to buy. That being said, as time goes on, we're going to really start to see these numbers decrease, especially on the other side of price appreciation. Some of these balances, like 1% for 50,000, it's going to shoot down dramatically. And why is that? Well, there's going to be two factors. One, the wallet count is going to go dramatically up, especially with more people buying the ETFs. It's going to have a lot more gravitas to it. Right now, cryptocurrency is still somewhat of a fringe area. Some people still believe that, you know, it's not even really currency. Wall Street and the banks are finally coming around to that. But if you ask your average person on the street what they think of crypto, they probably think it's a scam, or they'll just say, oh, I could have bought Bitcoin, but I didn't. And that's really as far as it goes for most people. If you're watching this video and you're early on this, This is tremendous. You may not even realize at this time just how much of an opportunity all of this really is. A small deposit of $5,000 puts you in the top 10% of XRP. I think within the next 5 years, holding 2,500 XRP might even put you closer to the top 2 or top 3%. Why is that? When we have the price appreciation, there's going to be a lot of people that end up selling, taking profits. Some people are just here for a quick buck. I'm personally going to be holding on as long as I possibly can. I don't plan on selling my tokens for any reason. I want to be part of that delegation community that is getting passive income from XRP. But the point I'm getting here is that as the price goes up, more and more retail are going to become exit liquidity, and the institutions are going to buy this up. When you think about who can buy a $100 XRP or a $500 XRP, and I know that price sounds crazy right now, but if you think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, after the price is multiplied multiple times, your average retail buyer is not going to be able to go out and buy, baskets of XRP. Maybe they can get a token here or there, but the idea of getting the 2,500 tokens when it's trading at $100, it just isn't feasible for most people. That would be $250,000. Most people just do not have that for investments. If they did, they would have to dollar cost average that over the span of multiple years, probably a decade, just to get to 2,500. You're able to get there right now with a small deposit of $5,000. Whether you do that all up front or dollar cost averaging, it's still possible for everyday people to crack into the top 10%. And once you get there, you can turn this into a game. You say, all right, I got to the top 10. I would need 8,000 XRP to get into the top 5%. 8,000 XRP right now, that's still just slightly under $20,000. That's very doable if you started in 2024. If it's 2025, 2026, you just have to do what you can. There's no way for us to reverse time and go back and buy at the lower prices. There are going to be more dips in the future. It's not going to go vertically up and just stay that way. As long as you're dollar cost averaging and you just play the long game, I think it's very possible for a lot of us to really multiply our wealth and get ourselves into positions where we're able to finance not only our own lives, our future children's lives, and even possibly our grandchildren's lives if you get enough of these tokens and hold on to them long enough to see that price appreciation. So this right here, this is the richlist.info. I check this a couple times a week just to see how things are going in the total market. I'm very keen to watch where these top 100 wallets go as the ETFs continue to have inflows. I expect right now we have 6 wallets with over $1 billion. I think that number is going to go down. We'll see if I'm right about that. I think it's possible we see it go to 5, maybe even 4. And then I think these next 2 tiers, the 500 million to $1 billion and the 100 million to 500 million, I think we're going to see that drop off too. And we're going to see them get more consolidated into this 20 million to 100 million range. And that would represent the inflows from the ETFs pulling tokens away from the exchanges. We get that supply shock. That's going to be the catalyst that makes XRP's price skyrocket. Until then, yes, we're just tracking Bitcoin's prices. That's the way it's been for about the past 10 years. If this plays out, we could definitely decouple from Bitcoin. Until then, when Bitcoin moves, XRP moves. I like to come here a couple times a week to see how things are going so that I can be prepared for what happens next in the market. And I hope that you guys are going to use this site as well so that you can do the same thing. So we're going to start wrapping this up. Go ahead and like the video, leave a comment, and also share the video if you really enjoyed it. That's going to be the #1 thing that helps me grow this channel. This is a newer channel, so those shares really go a long way. I'm very appreciative if you do leave a comment. Any questions you have, I'm very happy to answer. In the meantime, I'm going to let you guys get back to it. My name is Andrew Fillion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.